Hello and welcome to Shoot On. To ensure proper, reliable function of our firearms, they should be cleaned after every range session. And another thing to consider as well is for those that are concealed carry their firearms, we're going to be exposed to perspiration and other type of environmental contaminants, so they need to be tended to on a daily basis. So please follow along as we field strip and clean this 1911 pistol. Okay, we begin field stripping the pistol. Naturally, we're going to make sure that the firearm is unloaded. We invert the pistol with muzzle up, push down on the recoil spring plunger, and rotate the barrel bushing clockwise to the left. That will allow the plunger to come forward. The pistol that we're working on is a 1911 A1 variant from Springfield Armory. And when we look at the barrel bushing and the recoil spring assembly, this can vary from one manufacturer to another. And with this one, we can simply slide the spring forward and out of the slide at this time. Depending on the pistol that you're working on, you may not be able to do that. Next, we'll be removing the slide from the frame. We need to cock the hammer. Then we will move the slide rearward to where this semicircular notch will line up with the slide stop. Then on the rear of the slide, I'm pushing with my index finger the slide stop pin. Slide stop will rise up out of the frame. You simply pull it out, set it aside, then slide the slide off of the frame. Set the slide and frame aside. We now have the pistol field stripped into its major components of the slide group and the receiver group. The spring guide will simply lift out of the slide. We then need to remove the barrel bushing by rotating it counterclockwise. And it'll slide forward off of the barrel and out of the slide. Rotate the barrel link forward, then the barrel will slide forward out of the slide. There is no further disassembly required of the frame assembly. The pistol is now properly field stripped for cleaning. Begin the cleaning procedure by cleaning the bore. I begin this process by using a bore brush in Hoppy's cleaning solvent. An important thing to look for when purchasing your bore brush, and what I have here is a real avid cleaning rod and bore brush, is to have the wire phosphor bronze bristles on the bore brush. A lot of stuff we see out there are the nylon bristles, and they're such a larger diameter that they're not able to get down into the sharp corners of the rifling of the barrel. The phosphor bronze brushes clean much better. So I just insert a little solvent into the barrel, work the brush back and forth within the barrel, start to get the fouling loosened up, and I'll let that soak as I'm cleaning the rest of the handgun. And it's good to have a cleaning rod that has a ball bearing handle. As we hold the handle, it allows the tight fitting brush to follow the rifling and allows the rod to rotate with the rifling rather than unscrewing the brush. It's also important to go completely through the barrel with the bore brush and not to try to change directions within the barrel. Otherwise, the brush can get stuck. Typically, I will allow the brush to exit the muzzle of the barrel and stop on the last row of bristles and then reverse direction. Because as the brush goes into the barrel, now the bristles are laid back in this fashion. If you try to reverse direction, now we're asking those bristles to go back over, and this can cause the brush to get stuck in the barrel. So do not reverse direction with the brush in the barrel. Once you're satisfied, here at the chamber end, it's okay, as the chamber is a little bit larger diameter than the bore. Then I can work this back and forth to clean the chamber. Now I'll just set that aside and I'll allow that solvent to set as I clean the rest of the pistol. As the bore is soaking with cleaning solvent, I'll move on to cleaning the slide. And this is simply a matter of just a little bit of solvent and using a brush similar to a toothbrush. This one is a real avid brush, which allows a little bit longer reach. But we're simply just going to, using the cleaning solvent, we're just going to scrub. We're simply cleaning steel at this time. It's not a difficult process. We're just going to remove the residues of the powder fouling. Now we do want to pay particular attention to these slots that we see in the end of the slide. Those are the locking lug engagements for the barrel. So we want to make sure that we have those clean to ensure proper lockup. We're simply going to brush down the slide and then wipe it clean and dry. And of course, it's going to depend on how many rounds you fired, how dirty your firearm is, to how much scrubbing that needs to be done. But we do want to pay particular attention to the breech face as well. But we do not want to oversaturate with solvent that we would allow solvent to go into and enter the firing pin hole. Be sure to clean the exterior surfaces of the slide as well. Once we're finished cleaning, wipe it clean with a clean, soft, dry cloth. We want to remove all the residue of the solvent and carbon fouling. When we look on the inside recesses of the slide, a Q-tip comes in handy to reach down inside the barrel locking recesses. We also want to pay particular attention to the rail slots in the slide. When we field stripped the pistol, the hammer needed to be in its rearward position in order to remove the slide. Before we start cleaning the frame, it's a good idea to allow the hammer to come forward. So you just put a little bit of pressure onto the hammer with your thumb and squeeze the trigger and allow the hammer to come slowly forward. You do not want to dry fire and allow that hammer to move forward under full spring tension. Now, as we clean the frame, it's very much similar to cleaning the slide. Just going to be a little bit of solvent and a brush to loosen up all the fouling. But we want to pay particular attention here at the disconnector that we do not flood that area with solvent and allow a bunch of solvent to flow down into the internal workings of the pistol. We do want to pay particular attention to the slide rails. Once we're done scrubbing, we just wipe the surface down and remove all the residue. We want the frame, as well as all the parts, to be clean and dry. So just a clean, soft cloth to remove all the solvent and residue. Some Q-tips can come in handy to get down into the slide rails and other hard to reach areas. But the idea here is to be clean and dry. Once all the parts are clean and dry, then we will lubricate and reassemble. And let's not forget the small parts. It's nothing different here. It's much of the same. Just a little bit of solvent. Doesn't take much. And we just scrub them with a nylon brush. Once cleaned, wipe them dry with a soft, clean rag. Again, we want the parts to be clean and dry. With all of our other parts clean and dry, now it's time to return to the barrel. With a properly fitted jag on the cleaning rod, using a patch, I'm going to wipe the chamber clean. And we always work from the chamber end out the muzzle. And we just push the patch out the muzzle. Depending on how many rounds were fired through the handgun, and how dirty the patch still comes out, we may need to repeat the brushing process with the cleaning solvent. And this is something we're just simply going to repeat until the patch comes out clean. With the bore clean, we then just a little bit of solvent onto the barrel hood and around the locking lugs, and we just scrub the external surface of the barrel full length with our nylon brush. Then we wipe the surface clean. Now that all of our parts are clean and dry, it's time for lubrication and reassembly. Proper lubrication of a 1911 does not take much lubricant at all. Actually, it's best to be lubricated in moderation. We don't want to use too much lubricant, as this will attract excessive dirt. We just need enough to prevent premature wear and to keep our firearm functioning properly. To properly lubricate the frame, we're going to place 3 drops of oil along each side of the slide rails. There'll be 1 drop of oil on top of our disconnector. We'll need to cock the hammer and then place 1 drop of oil between the hammer and the frame. This drop will flow down against the sear and the hammer hooks and ensure proper function of the hammer. To lubricate our slide, we'll place 3 drops of oil on each of the rails and 1 drop of oil on each of the locking lugs. The barrel, place 2 drops of oil on the barrel hood. Those 2 drops will be spread across the top surface of the hood, 1 drop of oil on each of the locking lugs, and 1 drop of oil will be placed on the rear of the barrel link. The remaining small parts will receive a light coat of oil. The slide stop will receive 1 drop of oil on the slide stop pin, and that drop will be spread across the full length of the pin. With the bore clean, using a clean patch with a little bit of oil on it, just slightly or lightly coat the inside of the bore to provide some protection against corrosion. With all of our parts cleaned and properly lubricated, reassembly is simply the reverse of disassembly, and the Real Avid 1911 Smart Map actually has this numbered disassembly sequence fully illustrated. With the assembled pistol, at this time, I like to go ahead and do a function check, particularly to ensure that our safety mechanisms are working properly. So go ahead and pull the slide to the rear, release, without engaging the grip safety, and with the thumb safety disengaged, pull rearward on the trigger and the hammer should not fall. Leaving the thumb safety disengaged, apply pressure onto the grip safety, push the trigger to the rear, the hammer should fall, and it does. Pull the slide to the rear, thumb safety engaged. Now we engage the grip safety, pull the trigger to the rear, the hammer should not fall. Disengage the thumb safety, engage the grip safety, pull the trigger to the rear, the hammer should fall, and it does. Holding the trigger to the rear, which is going to simulate a cartridge being fired as the slide comes to the rear. Had we fired it, our finger would still be holding the trigger to the rear. We want to ensure the hammer stays in place. Release the trigger, pull the trigger, hammer should fall. Our pistol is now ready for the next trip to the range or what may ever go bump in the night.